Hey everybody, this is Doc Mack from the Galloping Ghost Arcade out in Brookfield, Illinois. It's Tuesday, June 30th, 2015, and we are joined with by Pete Hahn.
How's it going, everyone?
And just gonna basically do a podcast about week in review and talk about some scores and just some stuff that's going on. So
Cool.
I guess first up, let's go over the. We just had our Shmups event,
Yeah.
which thanks to you, Pete, we you pretty much ran that whole tournament.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun to do. I don't know. I kind of put a lot of thought into the games that went into it, and kind of gave a little sheet to everyone if they wanted a hint. But I thought it was done pretty well. I was hoping to get more people come out, but overall, like, I was really impressed with like the quality of play. Like, we had like a really good amount of scores go in that were good scores. There weren't many people just putting up just whatever scores, you know.
Well, and like we had our returning T20 champion
Zurst
Zurst came in, which
Yep.
was excellent, and
Yep.
he
ended up winning. Yeah.
he ended up winning it.
Yeah.
So, congrats to him.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a great lineup of games. Do you want to tell them it was 7 games?
It was 8 games.
8 games.
Yep.
8 games.
So first we had 19XX, and we had Aero Fighters, and we had Sivern. I don't know how to say it. Sivern.
Tengai.
Tengai.
X Multiply.
No.
No, not Gradius 4.
Gradius 4, and then G Darius,
G Darius.
and there was one more we're missing.
Was there?
Thought there was. Oh, Zedblade.
Zedblade, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, like I tried to mix it up. There's four horizontals, 4 verticals, kind of different mechanics in a lot of them. The one thing I kind of strayed away from to like discourage, I didn't want to discourage new people. There was no like hardcore chaining elements in any of those games, except for the you could chain in Raystorm with just the lock on. Like if you locked onto a multiple targets, you get a multiplier. That was the extent of the chaining. All the other games feature some type of like, if you know what you're doing, you're going to score better, but nothing like hardcore chaining like Dodonpachi or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it was a really good selection. Again, thank you for running that.
Mm-hmm.
We had Frayne, who was a great Shmups player that traveled in. He actually brought one of his candy cabs with him, and they had a event going on in the expansion area as well.
Yep, he brought his Astro City candy cab. That thing looked awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you check out any of the games that they were playing? Or
They were playing Twinkle Star Sprites, and I'm not sure if that was the arcade one or the Dreamcast one. And then on the candy, they had something going on that looked insanely impossible. I didn't touch that one.
Yeah, they were playing Mushushimi-sama, I believe it was.
Oh, okay.
And wow, just such a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very hard, very bullet heavy.
They were playing like the Black Label like hard mode, I think.
Yeah. They definitely like their hard shooters.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we want to huge shout outs to them for having their event here, and we hope to do it again next year. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I thought it was a good tournament overall. I get, like you said, I was surprised that I don't know if I know a lot of our regulars have just got stuff going on, but
Yeah, maybe people are burned out from T20 still. Who knows?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, there's like I sent out the Facebook event like about a week before the event, so maybe I should give more time next time. But if anyone has any feedback as to what I could have done differently to get more people into it, please let me know in the comments.
Very cool. So yeah, aside from that, some other stuff going around the arcade. We literally just put up Us versus Them.
I haven't even tried it yet. It looks so fun though.
It's a hard game for sure.
Yeah.
It's a laserdisc shooting game. So basically, they have like real video of like backgrounds, and then you're controlling your sprite ship, and it starts out you're flying your ship from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's side views, and it changes it up. It's really interesting game. We picked that up out in where we get that from. We got the cabinet from it was here in Illinois somewhere,
Okay.
as I recall. But it had a lot of board damage.
Mm-hmm. It's not a Laserdisc game?
It is a Laserdisc, but
Oh, okay.
there's I think 5 PCBs inside of it. The one controlling like the sprites are actually on their own separate ROM.
Okay.
And the controls are on their own board, and the audio's on its own board, and everything's all split up. So you have your Laserdisc playing the video, and then the game on a separate board, and just it displays the sprites as an overlay almost.
Oh, okay.
We had actually huge thanks to Kerry Cheney from the Place Retro Arcade out in Ohio. He, at the T20 event, brought us a Laserdisc player because ours in the cabinet didn't work, but the disc was good. But he brought us a player that he donated to us.
Thank you.
That's a huge thing. And we ended up, me and Seth and I had worked on it and fired up, and then now it's out on the floor.
Awesome.
So,
is it back in the new area in the center?
It is currently, back in the new area, back by 720 and
Cool.
Wacko and all those. Came out in 1984. Was a Milestar game, which was actually kind of the successor company. Like a lot of the Gottlieb guys, like Jeff Lee, he actually worked on it.
Oh, cool.
And he was telling me the picture of the guy recoiling in fear on the top was actually him.
That's awesome.
He modeled for that, and we'll be actually posting a Facebook picture of him doing that right by the cabinet. So
that's awesome.
That'll be going up the next day or so. But he was telling me a lot of the behind the scenes of that as well, like how he made a ship out of paper that he modeled, like he used that as his model to like draw the sprites and stuff. And
it's awesome that we can get all this background like from the source. I think it's incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry, interrupted.
For me, like from a production standpoint, just because of our production company, to be having these guys out that made these great games that have been around for 30 years, it's amazing. Hopefully people really appreciate that, because you think back in the day, you could never find these people. Like, there wasn't the internet. Like, you couldn't get all these behind the scenes stories and why things were the way they were. And we're actually working on our Developers Day 2 event, which the first one we had Chris Tang, Brian Colin, and
Jeff Lee came out, right?
Jeff Lee.
Yeah.
All stopped by.
Yeah.
We're working on a new one, so we're talking with Warren Davis, who he worked on Us versus Them. He's going to be stopping by, and Dennis Nordman, who is another one of the programmers on that. So not sure if they're both going to be here for Developers Day, but we're probably doing the Developers Day for our year anniversary probably on August 15th.
Cool.
On that Saturday of our week-long anniversary celebration. Amazing that it's going on 5 years.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the Us versus Them. It is in the back area, and and hope everybody gives it a try. And I just saw James White playing it, and he put up a ridiculous score. So
cool. I'll check it out tonight for sure.
It's very for those that haven't played it, it's kind of like a B-movie, alien movie, where a lot of overacting and...
Like the movies that would get riffed on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of fun, though. You can tell a lot of fun went into making the game, and definitely very unique. We have another game that will be going up called Interstellar, which is another Laserdisc game that we picked up a while back that's similar, but that one takes things a little more seriously. So definitely Us versus Them, a great game, and according to Orcade, we're the only arcade to have it.
Nice.
So definitely cool. A lot of fun. Great cabinet.
Yeah.
It was actually they didn't release a dedicated cabinet for it. They only had converted Mach 3 cabinets.
Okay.
And then they had side art and everything for it. So.
Did this game see a wide release, or was it?
No, I don't remember if it was Sam Russo. I was talking with those guys when we had our event that had worked at Gottlieb, and they were joking how it was very, very low sales, like under 10 sold.
Oh my! So yeah, that makes sense that we're the only one on arcade that has it then.
Well, and I know like collectors. There's a collector's market for it, and there's more of them out there. Like they produced a bunch of them, but they just didn't sell.
Right.
So. But yeah, we're very fortunate to have it, and again, huge thanks to Carrie Cheney for helping us getting it up and running.
Cool.
Let's see, and we've got this upcoming week. We've got a couple of games. We're still working on our Darius project. That's been just problem after problem with it.
Yeah.
But hopefully this upcoming week will be the week.
Cool. So the board right now is the holdup?
Yes,
Yeah.
there still is a board issue.
Okay.
And the cabinet still needs some work, but it's not as motivating to work on it without the board in there.
Right.
So once the board's up and running, I'm sure that'll happen very quickly.
Cool. I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome.
And I can see why. We have you had a bit of interesting Darius Gaydon
Yes.
news going on this week.
Yeah, I increased my score. I was sitting at around 9.8 million, and I had almost as good of a game as you can have in that game without. Let's see. So I was able to beat it without dying. So you have to do that to get the max bonus for number of lives, and then I had the max bonus for having 5 bomb stocks, and then the max bonus for capturing all the sub bosses. So I ended up putting up 10.6 million, which I'm super happy with, and I'm finally ready to move on from that game. Even though I love it and I'll still play it from time to time, like I'm not going to try increasing that score because that's good enough for me. I'm finally done.
Watching you play that was actually on our Shmups weekend.
Yeah.
Which was a great timing for that to happen, and just amazing watching you play that. So,
thanks.
Definitely a lot of fun and a very tough game, and you really know it inside and out. So
yeah, when you love a game that much, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of work. That's why I like putting time into games one at a time. Like I get into a game and try to just give everything I've got to it rather than spread myself out. Because if I really like it, I'm going to keep coming back to it. So.
And now have you moved on to X Multiply or?
X Multiply is going to be on the radar. Like it's what I still am kind of feeling the need to increase my score in is Gradius 2, whatever you want to call it. I think I can possibly beat Pete Gore's score. I think he got kind of close to looping it, and I want to see if I can beat the first loop of the game.
Yes.
So we'll see. He put up almost 300,000. It's been on more than a year, so I'm going to see if I can beat that. But then X Multiply will definitely be up there.
And that was, which one was Gradius 2?
Yeah.
And what about Gradius 4?
Gradius 4, I will try that. Like there's just too much to focus on right now. Like I'm only really good at like doing one thing at once. So like if I try to focus, if I fan out and try to add that into the mix, I might water myself down too far, but I'd like to put some time into that at some point, definitely, because it's a lot of fun.
I know somebody put up a great score during the tournament.
Oh, Zerst did. He put up around 250K.
Yes.
My best right now is like about 150. I haven't put it on Orcade yet, but at some point I'd like to see if I can beat his score.
Yeah. That's another very, very difficult game.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely a really good week for scores. Again, James just put up a new us versus them that is he's over 250,000 already in that, so that's very respectable.
Cool. Is there any legacy scores that were on TG or anything for that?
No. I couldn't find anything for it. So James is setting the bar high out of the box.
Cool. But speaking of a high score set over the weekend.
Yes, Danielle Robbins had a new Flicky world record.
Incredible score.
Yeah. Absolutely. Was over first. She was the first to break 7 million points, which is very impressive. We had John Munkus, who was in from Arkansas
during T20, right?
During T20,
yeah.
He came in and put up he took Danielle's score. And she hadn't been back to play it recently, which was was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was encouraging her. Full disclosure, it's Danielle's my girlfriend, so. But I was encouraging her to go play it, and she's like, I'm not. She just wasn't ready to do it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I believe, was it Saturday? Saturday, yeah. She just came in and 2 games.
Nice.
And it really got me thinking in a lot of different ways about scoring. Oh, but first let me, with that, I've talked with John Munkus, actually, at his arcade. I believe it's Arcadia Retrocade.
Mm-hmm.
They have a flicky machine there.
Oh, okay, cool.
So hopefully we'll see some new scores going back and forth.
That'd be cool. Are they on Arcade?
They are not yet. I am talking with their owner, the owner of the Arcadia, to get them set up just so that they can verify John's scores.
That'd be cool, because then they can have really good back and forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's right at a tipping point where after this loop, the counter resets, like the round locks out at 99.
Like the score counter resets or the level counter?
The level counter.
Okay.
The level counter will reset and bring back all the window bonuses, and that'll really propel the scores up.
Yeah.
Probably close to like a score of 12 million is probably not too far.
Wow.
Out of the realm of possibility.
That's awesome.
But there's basically like after you loop it, it keeps getting harder, but essentially if Danielle and John keep going the way they're going, it seems like something that could very well be a marathon game at that point.
Nice.
Because they seem to be getting through the first couple of loops with no problem.
Well, how long did her game take her?
I don't even know. She doesn't like the pressure of being watched too much,
Mm-hmm.
so
It's understandable.
I kind of would pass by and just make sure how things were going, and at the end of it, I was actually on top of the cabinets behind her. Just I didn't want to interrupt her, so I was just kind of overseeing it. When she was about just about 6 million, she still had all of her lives.
Nice.
And it was looking like she was going to get it, and it really brought up some interesting points to me as far as the psychology of scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch so many great players put in so many great scores, and there's times where just like how they get there isn't really examined. We've watched the Flicky score go from relatively low. Like at the time, Twin Galaxies had a world record of like 4.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one that everybody was shooting for. Chris Teeter was playing that a lot
Mm-hmm.
when back in the day. He had his score here, I think, was a couple million. The issue was we couldn't verify the Twin Galaxies score because it didn't have the settings listed.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of like an unverified score that people went by.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Chris finally took that score and had the what was considered the world record.
Okay.
And then much later, Danielle started playing. And when she started, I have pictures of her scores when they were like 200,000 points. And just watching her progress as a player has been, it's been interesting. Like she and other players, they set like plateaus for themselves. Like she had a hard time thinking that she could get to 4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now she considers that a throwaway game. It's like that's a bad game now.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is, it's not so much she's not grinding out playing it. Like she's not learning the levels. She's not learning them better. An interesting thing that I noticed after she got, like John had his score of 7 million, which outdid her score by a little bit, but it wasn't, nobody like is crushing these scores.
Right.
From what I've noticed, the scores kind of creep up, and there's got to be a reason for it. It's not necessarily the players are they're at this top level, but you have to start to wonder, is it like a mental thing where they know what they have to achieve to have the new world record, and then after that, like, things kind of fall apart.
Do they shut down?
Yeah, it's like, I've got the score. Watching Danielle play, she was super excited, and she was looking around, and you could tell that she wasn't as focused as she was.
Right.
And she made 2 mistakes shortly after. She like completely missed one of the POPOs getting out of the door, and she just like stayed at the door, and Iggy got her. And that would be something that she almost never does.
It's like a beginner mistake.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But she had already had the score, so it didn't really matter as much.
Right.
And we've seen it, the same thing with Splatterhouse. It's like you have to look at like Anthony and Caitlin, like they're playing that part, like they're both great at it. But sometimes things just go like that. There's a little more random element to it. But it's an interesting thing. Like,
I think it's really similar to how fighting game players think. Me and Steve of 16-bit used to talk about, like, once he made top 8, he kind of shut down. Like, he didn't like a lot of pressure was relieved. Like, once he made top 8 at Evo, like, he wasn't super like pressured to do any better. So he was able to kind of do what he could do, but there was no other pressure to improve. So he ended up getting like 5th or 7th. Like, he didn't do, he might have been able to get higher, but he didn't put the same pressure on himself, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing happening. Like, you stop putting pressure on yourself, and then you feel loosey-goosey, and then all of a sudden you game over.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you wonder, like, what would happen if the players play and again, we can look at James White as a great example, and Matt Rocco used to do it a lot too. They'll be playing for a score, and it'll be like the level break or a bonus will be adding up, and they'll take a step back and they'll look at that card that's over, and they'll look at the house high score, or they'll look at the world record, and then they'll look back at their score, and you wonder, if you just got rid of those distractions, if you'd be playing on a different level.
Right. Or if you covered your score on the screen. Absolutely.
That would be the other thing. It's like, if that's why you're playing. And score players, they're very different. Like, it's definitely an interesting. There's so many players that aren't into scoring, but the ones that are, there is a pressure to it. And it's like, if that's what you're trying to achieve, it's you definitely feel it if you're getting close. But I wonder if some players started doing that, if we would just start seeing some scores change quicker. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Like, because I think a lot of these players go into a game with a goal in mind. Like, this is what I'm here to do. But if you set that goal to something non-quantifiable with a score, like, I want to get to the second loop of this game, and not knowing where your score is at, I think you'd see an improvement, because you're not going to stop playing until you get to your goal, whether or not that's only 10 points more than your score that you're trying to get, or 20 points. Like, I guess the goal is less concrete. It's more theoretical. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like, it's something that went through my mind when I was trying to beat Martin's Life Force score. He put up a little over 1.2 million. On our settings that we use here, I put up 1.5 in that game, and I was like, I can beat the second loop, and that's Martin died in level 5 or 6 of the second loop, and I was able to beat the second loop. So my goal in my mind was beat the second loop, and so I beat his score by about 300,000 points.
Yeah.
So I could have just turned off just as easily after just beating his score, but I had the goal of beating the second loop.
I had a different goal.
Yeah.
And like, the goal, the one thing with having goals, like, you can tell our regulars here at the arcade versus just like somebody who's coming in for the first time and just having fun. And it's interesting. It's like our regulars are the ones that are frustrated often. Like they're like the ones that are more vocal and yelling, and like there's so much frustration when you're going after some of these scores.
Sure.
You wonder if it's just kind of like at the end of the game, if it would alleviate all of that. Like there's players that are like, they burn out, or they'll walk away from a score, and I wonder if some of the players change the mentality of how they're getting the scores, if some would improve, or if it really is just like, is it really just that score driven for them?
Like, do you mean they just want to have their name on the card, or they just want to? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, yeah. It's one of those. Like sometimes you can see where the players are. It's not fun anymore. They're grinding to get this score.
Sure.
And like that's when the frustration sets in, and for us, that's when you'll hear them
audibly.
You'll audibly hear them going off, or they'll get rough on a machine or whatever, and it's like there's got to be that happy line. Like scoring is like anytime you're competing for something, you got to take it seriously.
Right.
But again, these are all games, and it's like you have an end for your game. And I think that's actually one of the other difficult things in the scoring scene is like, especially with the caliber of players that you have here, like you can't ever be confident with a score anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's just so many super players here that nothing. I don't think any score is really safe.
I completely would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's like there's scores that, like James White taking the pit score that stood for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's like that guy probably thought, well, this score will like how much more secure can a score be if it stood 30 years?
Right.
But it's like now that the arcade is back in an arcade, it didn't last too long.
Right.
And for our regulars, it's like, again, when Martin Bedard comes to town, there's going to be scores changing hands.
Absolutely. Like, it's a world record or two every time. Like, most games, he'll come up there and he'll murder them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll just get random games where some guy will just come in and...
It's the game he had in his basement as a kid.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But that in itself becomes like this demotivating factor. Like, it's just very interesting. There's a lot. I don't think people recognize how much goes into scoring, and it might even be on a subconscious level that a lot of our players are just moving forward, and they're always going for the scores. But like, you wonder if they took a step back to like look at it, if they would approach it differently, or
right. Like, you'd have to know what you're getting into beforehand, like all these hours of grinding, and like if you think about all this effort this is going to take, and then the score at the end, some people would be like, I don't know if I want to put my time in that way.
Sure.
But once you get hooked, it's pretty incredible, like how much you'll play a game, if you like it at least, like how much time you'll devote to something to improve it just a little bit. Whether it be the limit of yourself, the limit of the game, whether the game ends or whether it loops or kill screens, like.
Well, and that to me, it's another telling point. It's like once most of our regulars get a score, like they walk away. It's like they leave it until somebody takes it. And there's exceptions, like you can, like you on. Darius Gaydon, like you continued to play it, you broke your 10 million, you met your goal, but like you had the score. And again, for that you've set the bar pretty high.
Right.
In doing that, like there's several things that happen, I think.
Yeah.
One, I think players won't gravitate towards that game because the bar is so high. Like, they'll play it.
Oh, like it's a negative motivator, like.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. It's like they don't want to go by that score because it's not maxed out, but it's up there, and there's lower hanging fruit if you want a world record.
Right.
And that would be one that they would have to play to get up to your skill level before they're going to even be in the realm of it.
Right.
And there are people that do it. Like, again, we can look at it. Danielle and Flicky, like, again, her scores were relatively low. She loved the game, though, and built it up, and now she has a score. But it was a big process, and her first real endeavor into scoring.
Yeah, which is incredible that she ended up so high, like, on this game. Like,
absolutely.
Like, do you think it has anything to do with people, like, so someone puts up an awesome score and the bar is set so high, and if I put up a score that's just whatever, it's only going to get one token on Orcade and lower my overall, like, tokens per game count. Do you think that demotivates people?
I don't know. Well, some of them, like, there's it's so difficult to get people into, like, the token aspect of it is definitely a secondary element to it. I think some people, if they
I've had a couple people say, like, could you erase the score on my game because I only have one token in it, and it'll raise their average token.
Average.
Yeah. I'm not going to name names.
that's one of those, like, the tokens are in the Orcade system. It's a definitely smaller niche group that are really into that, and they're cool. Like, I look at my token count, and it's like, I'm happy with my average, and
I care about my average. I don't care so much about my overall count, but I like that my average is like above 10 per game now.
Yeah. Well, and that's an impressive thing.
Yeah.
Like, but even the overall token count, like, we've had people getting their 2,000 tokens and 3,000 tokens, and they're just different elements you can track, and what people are. I think as they get closer to that goal, like, there's so few goals that you can have. Like, there's finishing a game in one credit. There's having the house high score. There's having the world record. And then there's tokens.
Right.
And then there's not too much outside of that. So I think everybody has their own little things that they look for and want to track. And I think as you get, like, if you had 999 tokens, you'd probably do whatever you could to just get that 1,000 tokens.
Sure,
just because.
I'd just play one game on the floor of whatever just to get that token.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, getting people in, like, there are demotivating factors. There are motivating factors. Like, when we talk about players having their scores for a long time, and that's what a lot of people want. And I remember Walters, though, saying that was always one of the things. He always wanted his scores to come down to give him a reason to go back and play the game more. I remember with Dodonpachi, he was always pushing people to go play it just so
someone could challenge him.
Yeah. And it's interesting with like, with so many games to play. Like, for you example, if somebody, like, you said you're done with Darius Gaydon, somebody came in and took your score, would you go back and play it?
Depends, like, if it was beaten badly or just by a little bit. Like, if it was like 100,000 points, I'd have to say yeah. But if it was like he somehow put up 12 million, I don't know how he would do that, but if he did that, then I'd be like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Like, I don't think that's in my skill set, you know?
Well, like, and it would be, really.
Like, I
like, there would have to be, it reminds me of when Rocco was playing Rolling Thunder.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he would get to the last boss, and he had nowhere near the score that was on Twin Galaxies.
Mhm.
And it turned out that like he had me do some research, and he's like, he didn't know if the score was legitimate because he was getting to the last boss.
And was nowhere near the score. He was like half the score.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Um,
I actually remember looking for the video for him, like, and there was like a lot of padding being done in the actual video.
Yeah, the guy was constantly just going back and forth and killing everybody multiple times, and it was such a different way to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried it for a little bit. And he didn't like how that played, and I think he just kind of
He just let it go?
He just let it go.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, there's elements of where it's a demotivating thing where like, yeah, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to play like that anymore.
Right. That reminds me of you bringing up Third Strike. Like, I don't want to play the game this way. Like, you'd have to play the game a certain way to get a certain score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
You don't play the game straight up at that point.
that's very, for fighting games especially.
Yeah.
It's a different creature. It's like there's usually some break in the way the computer plays that if you exploit it, that's how you get the points and the perfects and everything.
You
But
just repeat. Yeah.
yeah, it's not, you're still playing it, but you're just not doing it as like a natural gameplay would be. But it's but that comes down to, it's like whatever gets you the highest score, like you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
Third Strike for me, that I didn't want to do it and I walked away from it.
Right.
But that score did mean a lot to me. But that's how it is. But it's, for you, like you haven't lost very many records.
No, I haven't.
Can you name any?
Well, me and Pete Gores had a good back and forth in Knights of the Round for a while. Right now, I have it. I think he's moved on to other stuff for now. I don't know if he's going to go back to that.
Do you think that like for me, I know when I have a score, you always have that pressure when you see somebody over there and they're going after your score. It's kind of like, oh, am I going to have to be over there playing that again? Like
right.
for me, it's difficult just because there's so much going on. And there are players that just grind out all day.
Yeah, I guess I do feel that pressure. Like, when the Shmups guys were in town, I'm like, is this guy going to be able to beat my Salamander 2 score? Like, I saw someone playing it, and no one did, but I guess the pressure's there because these are the guys that are good at this type of game.
Yeah.
So, there totally was that pressure there. Like, I don't know if I'm still going to have that score after this weekend. So
it's one of those, I think it's funny how I've seen people lose scores. Like, one of the worst things I see people do is apologize for taking somebody else's score.
Right, yeah. I don't agree with apologizing. I mean, I understand it's kind of it's a personal thing. You're taking something away from someone, but the game determines the winner, not the other person. Like, it's a very objective thing. Like, it's a math problem.
I don't think I've seen anybody who's apologized for taking a score keep that score for long.
Yeah.
I think that's almost, that in itself,
it's a telling thing, yeah.
You are motivating your opponent to come back and take it, and it's just one of those where, apologizing. I think it, even if it's meant as a sincere thing, I have not heard anybody take it as a, oh well, at least he apologized. It's always been like,
he's showing off.
Yeah.
He's bragging.
It's definitely usually taking as a bragging thing, and I've seen a lot of people that becomes their new goal if you apologize for taking somebody's score. But it's again, it's interesting to see what motivates or demotivates people in getting a score. Definitely, people get distracted with so many games on the floor. New stuff going up. They want to play something that they haven't played before.
Well, that used to be the point of going to the arcade, just to have fun. But now, like this kind of like you have to focus. You have to narrow your approach, or else you're never going to get any score if you play too many things. I think that's me at least. I don't know about other people, but if I play too many things, I can't set scores.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you like that?
It depends. Like I'll play any random thing at any given time. The stuff that I'm focused on, I'm trying to wean myself off of going after scores, just because it's like they mean a lot. Some mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. Like which ones? Like Narc? Is that
Narc means a lot.
Yeah. What about Ninja Gaiden? You had that one a while ago.
I don't. I like the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a great score in that game.
Oh, okay.
It could be much higher. I don't see anybody playing that game to any depth. Like nobody's trying to learn it.
Right.
But yeah, that's one that has definitely got a lot of room to grow on, and it's stood up there for quite a while, which is surprising. I was talking with John Haruza.
Mm-hmm.
There was another thing. We used to have Mitchell scores here.
Yeah, that's used to be a thing.
Everybody would Mitchelling a score, being a term we coined from King of Kong, where you would have a high score and then you would play again and you would set a higher score, but you would only let your first score be known.
They would not submit it to Orcade, nothing. It'd be totally secret.
We allowed some of our regulars, they had to tell us their Mitchell score right away. We wouldn't post it on Orcade, but I remember, and this was before it was even known as Mitchelling to us after Billy Mitchell. I had like 5 Pit Fighter score, or I had set a Pit Fighter score that was the new world record.
Yeah.
And I had just played a couple of games one night and got these progressively higher scores, and just kind of didn't think about it. And John Haruza started playing it, and he was like, he came up to me and he's like, I beat your Pit Fighter score. I was like, what'd you get? And he told me, and he had beat the number on the card.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I went through my pictures and I was like, yeah, I beat that. Here it is. This is the new world record. And he was like, it was another 20,000 points over what he had.
Yeah.
So he kept playing it. And came back a couple of weeks later and he's like, I beat it. I beat your score again. I was like, what'd you get? And it was 10,000 points higher. And I was like, I went through my pictures again. I was like, oh yeah, here's one that's higher. It's another 25,000 over of what you got. And he just was.
Was he done after that?
Forget it. He was like, whatever. And I had another score still. Mm-hmm. And when we had kind of talked about, Mitchelling a score is kind of.
It's demotivating at some point, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it was meant to do that. It was at that point, like I should have put in just my highest score at that point. But then it became this thing of like, how long will he keep going back before he's just like,
done? He's
got infinite scores like going on. So there's other things I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But that was that was an interesting fact-finding thing, element to the world of scoring. It's like stuff like that, demotivating players, or it's such a big part of it. Like, I've never seen anyone else really go back after Pit Fighter. And again, that's not even a very good score on Pit Fighter. There's a lot of room that could be that could go out, and that score could go up very easily. Not that I have any more Mitchell scores for it, but yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And I don't think people look at scoring in as many different ways as they should. And I think if they examined it a little bit more, people could find ways to either take scores quicker, or they could stay focused and get bigger, higher scores.
Like, I think that there's also a barrier to entry where a customer, like someone I would, me or you could consider them a casual player, but someone that otherwise might be interested in just putting up their score sees the house higher, the world record, and says, no, I'm not even going to put mine up because that's embarrassing.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you think there's any way to discourage people from, like, don't be embarrassed about your score? We realize this is your first score, you're going to improve it, just put it up and see what you can do. But I see so many people take a look at the score saying, oh wow, I'm not even going to try for that.
Absolutely. It's such a huge step to get people involved in scoring. And we've had our regulars, they want the competition. They want people to come in, and they want people to play against and play with, and they have an excellent attitude, but they're so good. It's one of those things that it just seems like overwhelming to people, seeing so many of the same names and so many of the cabinets. And that was a very interesting thing when guys like Brian Keita was coming around. It was Brian Keita, George Gaynor, and Nick Young. They got involved in the Metal Black.
They're all score chasing at the same time.
They were all score chasing. They were competing against themselves. Like the first night that we put it out, I think Chris was here, and I think he put up this like low score. And we told them it was on the like, hey, here's a new game, and if you can beat this score, you'll have the world record. And they played it all night, going back and forth and seeing who would have the world record. And at the end of the night, I think Brian had it. Okay. And they came. I ended up playing it that night, and I took the score after we closed. But they got into it so quick at that point. Like,
do you think it was because they immediately would get recognition for having the house higher, the world record?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was like it was a very fresh game. I think in a sense, like, and we love that our regulars do so many amazing things, but like, it's like James White. Like, he came in today and he put up 250,000
us versus them
on us versus them before it's even officially announced on the floor. And it's like, the average player will never play the game to that level.
Right.
So that's almost like an opportunity where that game has a score that it's now inaccessible to like a casual player. I think there's a very small window when a new game goes on the floor that either doesn't have a world record or has a very low world record, that new people can get brought in. But it's one of, like, a new player could play one game and have the world record, and that will mean something to them.
Right.
And it like it did with Brian Keita, George Gaynor, and Nick Young, it got them all into scoring.
Right.
But
I think all of them hold world records now, which is cool. Almost all of them do, I think.
I know George has Guilty Gear.
And Brian has got Shinobi and a couple others.
Yeah. I don't know if Nick has anything.
Okay, I'm not
sure.
He
might. I don't know. I'd have to. But I think that's one of those, our regulars, if they give players a little bit of room on new games, which is super difficult, because, like, who doesn't want to play the newest game out?
Yeah. And like you said, it's low-hanging fruit. Also, like, I can have my name on the scorecard just like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of those. It's a tough one. It's 10 tokens. There's so many benefits to it.
It's kind of what I did with X Multiply. Like, I kind of waited to see what everyone would do at T20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I think I can beat that. Then I just I got like 40 tokens because it was a tournament game. But like, I think a lot of people tried that originally when it came out too, because like whoever put up the score was going to have the world record. So I know the first night it was Pete Gores, I think, that held it.
Yeah.
And then T20 came, and then it got raised a little bit, and then I went after it after that.
Yeah.
But
well, and that's definitely a game like that's a very accessible game too. That could have been bringing in another player like Kita or like somebody who would appreciate holding a world record, even if it's for a little bit. And we have seen like Tim Foley. We've seen him get motivated lately, and I know he's been coming in and he's playing Yuchiyu, and he's going after Narc, and it's good to see new players stepping up and getting into it, even as difficult as it is in this scene. So hopefully that'll continue to grow. And
yeah, I'd want to invite, like all our regulars are cool with helping people out. Like if their name is on the top of the card, I can almost guarantee you with 100% success, you can ask them, hey, can you give me a hint? How do I get started? Like, what's the point? How do I get a higher score? How do I get past this boss? They will tell you. Like, most people are not shy at all about getting people into scoring. Like, if you ask me, like, hey, how do I beat this boss on Gradius or Darius Gaiden? Like, I don't have a problem showing you that. Like, it's worth it to me to bring people in.
If they were getting close to your score,
they'd have to know how to beat the boss already.
would if they're getting there and they've got a good score, would you tell them how to beat the boss? If they're like, I don't ever use any of my bombs, I got all my bombs, and
I tell them to use their bombs. Take away 300,000 points right there.
Would you?
I don't know. Bombing is better than dying in my mind.
But you know a way to beat that boss.
Yeah. Just through practicing a lot.
Sure, but would you let him watch you play? Would you tell him?
Yeah, I think I would.
Even if it would cost you the score.
Yeah, if he's just on the cusp, I think I'd probably let him watch me play. But it would be hard to not purposefully mislead him, I think. No, like, because in that game you have a specific path you can choose, but like, I would tell him my path. I would tell him like what my strategies were for each boss. But I like beyond that, if you want to watch me play a game, that's cool. Like if he didn't see my best run, it's not going to be super helpful.
Yeah.
But so I don't mind showing people. Like even my best runs, I don't even really mind showing. My best run on Vendetta is on YouTube. Yeah. I don't really mind.
And at that point, they still have to execute it.
Right.
But
it's like combo video versus like playing a real match. Like you can execute a combo once and make a video of it, and everyone's on YouTube's like, "Oh my God, you're such a good player!" But try doing it in a match against 16-bit, and we'll see how good you are.
Right. Right.
It's a big difference.
That's interesting. I know. Like on games that you really like, I wonder who would show all their secrets or who would keep some back. And
yeah, it'd be interesting.
Like James would be an interesting one.
Yeah, he'd be I think he'd be full of secrets. I think
he loves showing people how to play stuff, though.
Yeah, he's always hanging out by Tron. You're right. He likes to show people Tron and a bunch of other stuff.
When Triforce was here, I didn't see him rush over
to help.
Though.
Yeah, that's true.
But who knows? Who knows? It's James is one of the. He's such a cordial gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I could say what I would do. Like I know I've given away some scores.
Yeah, you've told me like this is what I did to get Slam Masters. Like,
sure. Like Slam Masters, I'm not. It's not one of my favorites. It's like it's one I'm happy that I have, but it's not like Operation Wolf or anything or Narc. Tim Foley has been interested in Narc, and I think I might show him how to do that score.
Cool.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Duke's the same way. He's very cordial. Like he's trying to get people, like anyone he can get to listen about Centipede. He'll show them like how to like get started and like this is what you got to watch out for. But I wonder if someone was getting close to his score, what would happen with Duke? That game's got a really high barrier, though.
Yeah. Like
You got to be playing that game for a while to get anywhere near that score.
Right. Like, I couldn't even fathom what that situation would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Duke didn't have the high score here.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a motivated player.
Yeah.
He's so good at Centipede. It's of watching people play at the arcade. Like, Duke playing Centipede is just amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's on another level on that game.
He is. And even if he tries to give you secrets of how to play that game better, and it's just like, so many people are just like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, definitely, it's interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, we hope everybody who is listening to this, come on in and try to get into scoring here. It's so much fun.
It makes you appreciate games, and it makes you appreciate the effort people have put into it. I think it's one thing to play a game, but it's another thing to try to score on it. Like, some people call it fun. I mean, some people think it's not fun. Some people think it's tedious, but it's definitely a different way to approach it, and you might like it.
For sure. Do you think? And again, we've seen such a huge evolution of looking at the regulars. They've definitely evolved. I think they're more concerned about than in scoring in general. Like, they've taken it to a much different level.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, they're doing tournaments outside of here.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps them preoccupied from even being here.
Oh, right. Like, I know right now they have a Igby, I think it's called, coming up. Okay.
Yeah. It's been interesting watching that as well. It's like the community. This place is so driven by its community.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been very interesting to see the evolution of it and where it's gone. Where all of our regulars have been so passionate about scoring, and it's like grown bigger than the arcade.
Right.
It's hopefully like there's new game, like even with the Shmups Tournament. Like, I believe some of them had other stuff going on, but it's definitely the atmosphere is different.
You mean when someone walks in, like, we know this guy can put up a score that's incredible, like, so I don't want to try that, or I don't want to see if I don't want to put up my score because he'll just crush it?
It's just like the community, like it used to, like when Rocco was doing Haley's Comet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had a crowd around him.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely less things to stream lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from an arcade standpoint, like, that's always been such a huge way that we reach out. Is when guys like Matt Walters or Fred DeHart or like those guys would be here streaming. People would be tuning in. Like, we had James from Spain come in, and actually that might have been off of Teeter streaming MAME.
Okay.
But it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Like when Anthony was here a couple weeks ago doing Splatterhouse, like, he had a crowd around him again.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is. It's really cool when you get that. It's very classic arcadey.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of the movie Tron, where he's setting his score. Jeff Bridges style. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's cool to have people watching you when you're setting a score. It's like, when you're in an arcade, it's it's full of people. It's filled with sound. It's not in the privacy of your house. It's not like, just you there able to focus. I think it's much more impressive to do that in an arcade. That's why I think it's cool. Like, Robbie Lakeman just beat his Donkey Kong score, but he did it at Fun Spot. I think that's awesome that he did it there.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, that's where you want to do it for that game. For another game, who knows? But I think it just adds a bit of mystique or just prestige, I guess, to setting a score like out in an arcade. Like, that's where you do it.
For sure. And obviously, like, the the regulars right now, they're mostly playing MAME, which is the scores are handled differently. But yeah, it definitely it's changed a lot. Like the doing it at home, like a lot of people do own arcade cabinets, but doing it here, it's a different pressure. But I think when you do accomplish it, like with that crowd around you, like again, Duke.
Yeah.
He's pulled a crowd around him when he was getting his not the last score, but the score before. I know there's a
few people around him.
There's a bunch of people around him. And it's like, again, it makes it more like you feel the pressure that you want to succeed more. And it definitely feels good when you accomplish that goal.
Yeah, it feels very zen-like. Like I felt like Neo in the Matrix setting that Darius score. Like I felt like I was invincible. You know, just doing it in the arcade with you watching there and like people around. It felt great, like adrenaline rush.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And again, it sometimes it's not the most optimal conditions. Like you'll have people running past you, or
as long as they don't smack me or anything.
Yeah. But it's I don't know. It's scoring in an arcade. It's
Yeah, I hope it comes back. It's been coming back lately. It's kind of it was a lost art for a while.
For sure.
But I love that it's coming back.
Well, and again, I think most of I can't wait till things settle down with a lot of our regulars and they can get in here and do what they do so well, and I think that'll be really awesome. So.
Yep.
And again, hope more people get into the scoring in general, and we definitely have some new games coming up. So a lot of opportunities for somebody to come in and be a world record holder.
Yep. Yeah. Is there going to be any new events coming up that you want to talk about now, or do you want to not mention those yet?
I'm trying to even remember what we have coming up. I know we have next month. We have G-Fest, which is a Godzilla convention that we're taking our Godzilla and Ultraman game to.
Cool.
But I think that's at the end of July. But we also have Atari Week coming up soon.
Is that going to be next month, or is it going to be August?
Probably be sometime in, I want to say July sometime.
Okay.
I don't want too much time. And again, I hope it brings our regulars in, and we'll have some surprises again for them. So
cool.
But yeah, aside from that, are you gonna work on X Multiply today, or
either that or Gradius 2?
Gradius 2.
One of the two, yeah, or both. We'll see if I can increase either score. But those are the kind of the two I'm looking at right now.
Very cool.
So you playing Fallen Angels? Still going after that score?
Yeah, I'm still going after. You had put up a very impressive Fallen Angels score.
It's beatable though.
It is beatable.
Yeah.
It's doable. You just need a good run.
Yep.
I'm much like yourself. I'm almost more interested in doing the 1 credit complete on it.
Yeah, I didn't complete it in that game. I died at Carlos on that game where I have the score.
Yeah.
So I would like to get a 1 credit complete.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's definitely one of those where it's all about the perfects. So like, if you'll either have the score by like the 4th or 5th guy, or it's not going to happen.
Or it's a throwaway game, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you finish it, like there's.
Yeah, you're not getting the score. Yeah.
Yeah. The end of level bonuses without the perfects are so low. But yeah, I'll probably play a little bit more of that, and anxious to play some more Us versus Them and Space Harrier. I want to get some time on Space Harrier.
Cool.
So.
I think thinking about going back to Knights of the Round after my little shmup thing is done. I'm infatuated with shmups right now, horizontals, but I'm thinking about going back to Knights of the Round because it's such a good game, and now the monitor's working good on it. Yeah. So maybe that might be next for me. When we do get Darius up, I'll probably be stuck on that. Good. Well, hopefully in the next week. But cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This is Pete Hahn and Doc Mack coming to you from the Galloping Ghost Arcade, and we hope to see you around the arcade soon. Yep. Thanks for listening. Thanks everybody.